Hello Americans channel. This video is made by free videos from Storyblocks, and these images and video we use just for explanation, and it's free use also.
Woman enters the back of the grocery store. The security guard faints when he discovers the reason. During an ordinary day in a city grocery store, security guard Nathan sat at his desk, carefully observing the movement inside the store. Suddenly, he noticed a customer heading towards a back room, a space clearly off limits to the public. At first he thought it was just a mistake, and that she would leave quickly, but when she didn't, he got up and decided to remove her. However, his expression paled when he realized the real reason why the woman had gone to that restricted area. Nathan hurried towards the back room, ignoring the nods of some employees along the way. It wasn't the first time that someone had gone beyond the workers-only area, but this time he felt something unusual about this customer. Shortly afterwards, he would confirm that his intuition was right, and discover that this was just the beginning of a strange enigma about to be revealed. "What's the hurry?" an employee asked him. "A woman went into the back. Didn't you see her?" Nathan replied, speeding up his steps, but his colleague just shook his head. Without wasting any more time, he started running, certain that this woman had not entered there by accident. When he reached the no-go zone for customers, Nathan went straight to the storage room. On the security footage, he had seen the woman enter the room and assumed she was still inside. He opened the door, ready to ask what she was doing there, but was completely immobilized by what he found. The room was empty. Nathan entered and examined every corner, even behind the cupboards, but there was no sign of anyone. The woman had simply disappeared. He left the storeroom and kept an eye on his surroundings, trying to hear any sound. Suddenly, he felt a hand on his shoulder, which made him shudder. He turned around abruptly. He was relieved to see that it was only Stephanie, one of the employees. "What happened, Nathan? Were you looking for me?" she asked with a broad smile. Ever since he had started working there, she had shown a certain interest in him. Nathan quickly explained that he was looking for a woman who had gone into the back, but Stephanie soon lost her enthusiasm. "Oh, I didn't see anyone come in here. Maybe she's already gone," she replied, without paying any more attention. Nathan was not willing to let go of the case. With no idea where the woman had disappeared to, he decided he would do everything he could to find out. There was no sign of her, and, with Stephanie now on break, the room was strangely silent. Determined, he decided to check every room, starting with the one on his left. He passed several rooms without finding any trace of the unknown woman. He let out a sigh, almost convinced that Stephanie was right, and that the woman, whoever she was, had already left. But suddenly a noise coming from the manager's office caught his attention. Nathan knew very well that the manager wasn't working that day, and this increased his suspicion. He ran to the office door and tried to open it, but it was locked. Nathan had a master key with him that opened every room in the store, but he had left it in his own office. A bad time to forget something so important. He pounded on the door with his fists several times, shouting loudly, "Security! Open this door now!" hoping that someone would answer. Nothing worked. After insisting to no avail, he ran to his office, grabbed the bunch of keys, and returned as quickly as he could. He found the right one, opened the door in a hurry, and, as soon as he entered, he was paralyzed by the shock of what he saw before him. He was fully aware that he had to get to the bottom of the situation. The scene was one of total disorder. Papers were scattered all over the desk, chairs, and even the floor, as if someone had rummaged through them looking for something. It was clear that the woman was responsible, but what was she looking for? Had she found it? And, more importantly, where had she gone? The room was empty, but a broken window showed the escape route. One thing was certain. Nathan had to find her. Quickly, Nathan closed and locked the door to the principal's office, making sure no one else entered. Leaning against the cold metal, he felt his heart racing as he tried to organize the confusion in his mind. His eyes scanned the chaos once again. Each scattered sheet seemed to contain a clue that he needed to decipher. The air was charged, heavy with urgency, and Nathan couldn't shake the feeling that every lost second could cost him dearly. Nathan quickly returned to his office, unsettled by the woman's intentions. As he walked through the corridors, his mind buzzed with hypotheses about what she might be looking for. The store was quieter, the usual buzz of customers replaced by a tense emptiness that amplified the sound of their hurried footsteps. When she opened the door, the familiar atmosphere of the office contrasted sharply with the disorder she had seen moments before. As soon as he entered, Nathan accessed the security system and began reviewing the recordings. He fast-forwarded and paused images with trained eyes, analyzing every detail with growing impatience. His fingers drummed on the desk as he watched the woman on the screen, her presence as enigmatic as her sudden disappearance. He zoomed in, keeping his gaze fixed on the monitor, searching for the hidden clue that would reveal his intentions. Examining the recordings, Nathan tried to reconstruct the stranger's steps. The cameras captured her partially illuminated face, her steady gaze, and the calculated movements with which she moved through the store. He murmured comments as he watched her strategic stops at the shelves, the brief dialogue with an employee, and the fast pace she kept. Each frame was a piece of the puzzle, and Nathan was determined to put them all together to form the complete picture. He carefully noted down times, places, clothes, and characteristics that could help him track down the woman. With these details lined up, he leaned back in his chair, his eyes squinting as a plan took shape in his mind. "I have to find her," he muttered, feeling determination hardening his tone. He knew what the next steps would be, gathering additional evidence and keeping everything secret until he understood the true scale of what was happening. Later, he returned to the director's office to analyze the set again. The space remained in disarray, papers scattered like windblown leaves and drawers open, revealing a hurried search. Nathan examined the path left by the intruder, trying to understand the logic behind the disorder. As he crouched down to pick up a fallen file, his mind raced with a single question. What could be of sufficient value to justify such haste? Determined, he began to rummage through the documents, trying to guess what she was looking for. Each sheet seemed to whisper undisclosed secrets. Suddenly, he found a crumpled photograph lying behind the desk. It showed a little girl. Nathan frowned as he looked at the picture, trying to fit that unexpected fragment into the puzzle. What was she looking for? He whispered, feeling the weight of a deeper mystery than he had imagined. Unsure of how to proceed, Nathan decided to call Mr. Dunn, the manager, for advice. He dialed the number with restless fingers drumming on the desk. "Mr. Dunn, this is Nathan. There's been a break-in at your office," he said in a firm tone. After a crack on the line, the manager's tired voice sounded. "Just make sure everything is safe, Nathan. We'll take care of it tomorrow." Mr. Dunn's instructions were clear. Leave everything as it was and don't worry. It must have been someone after easy money. There's no point in messing with it any further, he advised in a hurried, nonchalant manner. Nathan clutched his cell phone tightly, annoyed by the vague answer. Ending the call, he frowned even more, sensing that something was out of the ordinary. Nathan noticed the barely concealed panic in the manager's voice, and this only increased his suspicions. He mentally went over every word of the conversation, noticing the hurry and the slight tremor that indicated nervousness. "Why so anxious, Mr. Dunn?" he muttered to the cluttered room. His gaze roamed the chaos in front of him again, reinforcing his certainty that he couldn't let the case die there. There was something much bigger hidden behind it all. After locking the manager's office as requested, Nathan almost collided with Stephanie, who came around the corner with a mop. "Is everything all right?" she asked, concern on her face. He forced a smile and nodded slowly. "Just routine checks," he replied, avoiding her eyes. Stephanie held his suspicious gaze for a few seconds, clearly unconvinced by his answer. Nathan reinforced his disguise, assuring her that nothing was out of control. "You know, it's just another day at work," he joked with a forced laugh. Stephanie let out a short laugh, the sound echoing in the stillness of the store. "If you say so," he muttered, walking away with the cleaning trolley. As soon as she turned the corner, Nathan's smile disappeared, replaced by the suffocating weight of the secret he was carrying. To distract himself, he resumed his usual security rounds. He straightened his badge and walked through the corridors, inspecting each space rigorously. His mind relived recent events, but his eyes remained alert to any suspicious details. The familiar act of patrolling gave him some comfort, although the tense silence of the store seemed to amplify with every step. The rest of the shift passed without further incident, and Nathan maintained a semblance of normality. He served customers with the same rehearsed smile, and answered the usual questions mechanically. As closing time approached, he felt a mixture of relief and frustration. Nothing else had come up, leaving him with only the shadows of an enigma that refused to go away. Who was that woman? What was she doing in Mr. Dunn's office? And who was the girl in the photograph he had found? At the end of the day, Nathan left the grocery store, trying to put the strange events out of his mind. The cool night air contrasted with the heavy atmosphere inside the store. On the way to his car, he cast one last glance over his shoulder. He would never have imagined that such an ordinary place could hide such deep secrets. Still, one thing remained certain. He needed to find out the truth. What was Mr. Dunn trying to cover up? The next morning, Nathan arrived earlier than usual, still tormented by the mystery of the day before. The store was silent, the morning light stretching shadows across the aisles. He grabbed a cup of coffee as the images returned to his mind. Scattered papers, a shattered window, and the elusive figure of that woman. As he drank, he felt his resolve harden. He was ready to dig deeper, even if it meant crossing dangerous boundaries. As he passed the manager's office, Nathan overheard a tense conversation on the phone. He stopped immediately, holding his breath. Mr. Dunn's voice was full of urgency. "We have to solve this immediately." Nathan's heart raced as he discreetly approached the ajar door. Loose words, stolen evidence, and urgent action pierced the space, leaving him cold. It was clear that Mr. Dunn was discussing the incident with a mysterious woman, mentioning missing evidence and immediate measures. "No, it can't wait. If anyone finds out..." The voice faded the moment Nathan's shoe squeaked against the waxed floor. He froze, aware that he had just exposed himself. The sentences echoed in his mind, revealing that the situation was much more serious than he had assumed. The manager interrupted the call as soon as he realized he was being watched. Dunn's gaze met Nathan's intense silence, and surprise quickly gave way to fury. "Nathan, what are you doing here so early?" he asked in a voice that was calm but firm as steel. Surprised, Nathan swallowed dryly and replied hesitantly, "Just starting my rounds, sir," backing away slowly as he tried to disguise himself. The encounter only intensified Nathan's suspicions, and his urgent need to find out the truth. As he walked away from Mr. Dunn's office, his mind swirled with possibilities. What secrets was the manager hiding? The words he had picked up suggested something dark lurking beneath the routine appearance of the grocery store. Nathan knew he couldn't back down, not after that. He needed to observe more closely, listen to every detail and, above all, act without drawing attention to himself as he sank deeper into the mystery. A few hours later, Nathan gathered his courage and confronted Mr. Dunn about what he had heard, but the manager merely disguised it. "I have no idea what you're talking about, Nathan," he replied, averting his eyes too quickly to sound convincing. Nathan pressed, "What about the woman who was here yesterday?" Dunn's shrug seemed rehearsed, and the dismissiveness irritated Nathan even more. He left the office with frustration burning in his chest, and the manager's evasive smile etched in his memory. Back at his post, Nathan decided to go through the security recordings again. He rewound to the beginning of the previous day, his eyes fixed on the screen full of static and ill-defined images. He paused, replayed and rewound, each repetition increasing his focus. It was then that something caught his eye, a clue that might finally make sense of it all. "Why didn't I think of this before?" he muttered, feeling his excitement growing. He turned to the external cameras and focused on the parking lot, trying to follow the woman after the chaos. Despite the poor quality of the images and the unfavorable angles, Nathan managed to catch her on the move. She moved quickly through the cars, her gestures firm and decisive, until she disappeared inside a dark sedan. The image was unclear, but there was finally a concrete direction to follow. Patiently, he analyzed frame by frame until he managed to identify the license plate. He wrote down the sequence of letters and numbers carefully, convinced that it could be the key to the whole puzzle. He immediately logged on to the DGV's records, his nimble fingers running over the keyboard. When the owner's name appeared on the screen, Nathan stood still for a moment. He recognized that name, and that changed everything. Filled with a mixture of adrenaline and anticipation, Nathan quickly drew up a plan to locate her. He was certain that the woman knew secrets that Dunn was trying to hide, and every step brought him closer to the truth. With her address already registered, he put on his coat and headed for the exit. His heart was beating fast, torn between anxiety and excitement. "Now or never," he muttered, as he breathed in the night air and stepped forward, ready to face whatever came. With his heart racing, Nathan drove towards the woman's house, prepared to confront her and get answers. The car drove through the silent streets as the sun disappeared, casting long, unsettling shadows. Along the way, he mentally rehearsed questions and lines, each repetition increasing the tension. It was no longer just a question of duty, but of something personal. With each kilometer closer to the destination indicated on the GPS, the feeling of risk became more intense. When he arrived in the neighborhood, he remained alert, attentive to every detail around him. The houses showed signs of wear, with peeling paint and forgotten yards, as if they held memories of better times. Nathan's eyes roamed around every corner, on the lookout for any strange movement. Instinctively, he put his hand on the lock of the car as he slowed down, all his senses heightened, prepared for the unexpected. He parked across the street, but found no sign of the woman's car. He silently observed the scene before him, a small, weathered bungalow squeezed between larger, well-kept homes. The curtains remained drawn and the garage was empty, a detail that only increased his curiosity. "Where are you?" he muttered, already preparing to act. his mind racing with anticipation. Time dragged on as he waited, his fingers drumming on the steering wheel in impatience. 30 minutes had passed without any suspicious movement, and the excessive quietness of the neighborhood only reinforced the tension. Every rustle of leaves or distant bark sounded a warning. He checked his watch one more time, aware that he couldn't wait indefinitely, but afraid to risk missing the right opportunity. Finally, a car approached and parked in front of the bungalow. Nathan straightened up, his eyes fixed on the figure emerging from the vehicle. It was her, the quick movements, the attentive look around, the same determined posture he had seen in the store. There was no doubt, it was the same woman. With redoubled attention, he memorized every detail, from her height to her agile gait, turning suspicions into certainties, as he watched her approach the door. As soon as he saw her enter the house, Nathan confirmed her connection to the address without hesitation. The confident way she crossed the threshold intrigued him and made him even more determined. He quickly jotted down the exact time and details of what she was carrying in her notebook. Each observation seemed more than a simple note, it was another essential piece of the puzzle that was growing by the minute. With his mind made up, Nathan got out of the car, crossed the street and walked up to the entrance of the house, feeling his heart pounding under the pressure of adrenaline. Each step increased the firmness of his determination, bringing him closer to the answers he so desperately sought. When he reached the front door, he stopped for a moment, took a deep breath, and raised his hand to knock. "The time has come," he muttered, prepared to face whatever came. He knocked firmly on the wood, and the sound reverberated in the silent air, intensifying the tension that was already burning his nerves. His heart was racing, and his damp palms showed his nervousness. He shifted his weight from one foot to the other as he waited, feeling the silence of the neighborhood envelop him like a heavy veil. His mind revolved around possible scenarios, each one more charged than the last. The door opened, revealing the woman, who looked at him in surprise and suspicion. Nathan immediately caught the alert gleam in her eyes, as if she was trying to get a quick fix on him. "What can I do for you?" she asked cautiously, standing firm on the threshold without giving him room to enter. Her body leaned back slightly, ready to bolt at any moment. The air between them became charged, heavy with unanswered questions. Nathan introduced himself as the grocery store security guard, watching her posture change from surprise to defense. "I'm Nathan, from store security. We need to talk about your presence yesterday," he said in a firm but controlled tone. Her eyes narrowed, and her mouth closed in a hard line. "I have no idea what you're talking about," he retorted, crossing his arms in front of his chest as a barrier, blocking the entrance with his body. When the woman tried to close the door, Nathan put his foot in the gap, stopping her with a quick gesture. "I'm only asking for a few minutes," he insisted, keeping his voice steady, despite the surge of adrenaline coursing through his body. She gave him an annoyed look, her lips curling in frustration, before staring at him with a mixture of curiosity and resistance. "You can't just show up here and demand answers," he replied, his voice rising in a tone of impatience. The tension grew when Nathan confronted her directly about what he had seen. "I was there. I saw you enter the back of the store, in forbidden areas. Explain yourself," he demanded, staring at her intensely. She flinched, her face torn between resistance and hesitation. "Things aren't as they seem," she finally said, in a cautious tone that mixed defiance and surrender. Nathan moved closer, lowering his voice to a hushed whisper. "So tell me, what really happened?" The woman stopped at the front door, watching Nathan suspiciously. "I don't usually open up to strangers," she muttered, holding the doorknob as if it were a shield. However, Nathan's mention of Mr. Dunn changed his posture. "All right, come in. But we have to be quick," he said, stepping aside to make way. When Nathan crossed the threshold, he felt the weight of a suffocating tension, realizing that the risks were even higher than he had calculated. As soon as they entered, the woman made clear to Nathan the seriousness of the danger that surrounded them. "You don't understand what you're getting into," she muttered in a firm tone, casting uneasy glances at the windows, as if she feared being overheard. "This goes beyond minor infractions or hidden encounters." Nathan nodded silently, encouraging her to continue, while his heart raced at the implied consequences. Nathan didn't back down, determined to fully understand her reasons and choices. "I need you to tell me everything, why you were there and what you were looking for. Only then will I be able to help," he insisted in a firm but encouraging voice. She stared at him, her eyes oscillating between exasperation and relief, as if gauging how far she could trust him. After a brief hesitation, he let out a sigh. "Okay, I'll tell you." With obvious resistance, the woman began to speak, exposing disturbing details about her trip to the site. "I was looking for proof," she admitted, pacing the room nervously. "Wrong things happen in that store. things that shouldn't happen. Nathan absorbed every word, fitting the fragments of her account into the confusion he had already witnessed in the office. His voice wavered as he described the desperate search he had undertaken. Nathan listened with redoubled attention, realizing the dark dimension of the scandal that was emerging before him. So this isn't a simple case of breaking and entering or theft, he concluded, sensing the gravity of the revelations. She confirmed it with a solemn nod, looking at him with a serious gaze. Exactly, and if we're not careful, the situation could get much worse. Nathan stood up resolutely, ready to uncover the whole truth, even if the path was dangerous. Claire held out a bundle of worn folders to Nathan, her hands shaking slightly. "This will show you everything," she said quietly. Nathan opened the documents, skepticism evident on his face. Page after page of hard evidence emerged: signed orders, hidden transaction records, and compromising emails, all pointing to Mr. Dunn's illicit dealings. The truth began to weigh on him, each sheet seeming to turn into solid blocks of undeniable reality. At first, Nathan found it hard to believe that it was real, but when he looked closely at the files, he realized that the woman was telling the truth. How could Dunn have gotten this far? He muttered, his eyes fixed on the evidence. Every document, every signature, fitted together too perfectly. Disbelief gave way to icy acceptance, revealing the dark side of the grocery store he had promised to protect. Stunned by his discoveries, Nathan struggled to comprehend the extent of the deception. He sat down heavily, the chair creaking under his weight, while his mind boiled with betrayal and shock. All along, right in front of us, he muttered to himself. In the dimness of Claire's room, it seemed as if the walls were closing in around him, while the secrets kept in the files cast even longer shadows over his thoughts. Driven by the desire for justice, Nathan left Claire's house determined to face Mr. Dunn head-on. He gripped the steering wheel tightly as he drove back to the store, his jaw clenched with determination. As he got out of the car, the cold night air hit his face, contrasting with his inner turmoil. It's time to put an end to this, he thought, moving forward with firm, resolute steps. But when he reached the store, he found a scene he hadn't expected. The police were already on the scene, questioning Mr. Dunn. Nathan stopped for a moment, observing the patrol cars and officers on the move. One of the officers noticed him and motioned for him to come closer. Nathan's heart raced between relief and a hint of disappointment. "Looks like you weren't the only one who was suspicious," said the officer, handing him a card. "Maybe we need your statement." Finally, Claire confessed that everything she had done had been to protect her son from her criminal ex-husband, Mr. Dunn. Sitting with Nathan in the break room, she wrapped her hands around a mug of coffee. "He threatened to take our son away from me if I didn't cooperate," she admitted in an embarrassed voice. Nathan listened in silence, letting his expression soften. "You made the right decision by speaking out," he assured her, understanding that her actions were born out of fear and a mother's instinct. Soon, the store was taken over by law enforcement officers, who secured the space and began collecting additional evidence. Nathan watched as they cordoned off sections of the market, their serious faces and swift movements adding to the tension of the moment. The place, which had once been the scene of routine business, was now marked as a crime scene. Nathan watched Mr. Dunn being led away in handcuffs, experiencing a mixture of relief and validation. Standing in the parking lot, he watched the police car disappear, still seeing the man's haggard face through the window. He took a deep breath, feeling some of the weight of the last few hours dissolve. "It's over," he muttered, allowing a slight smile to appear before turning to go back inside. After everything they had experienced, Nathan and Claire grew closer, finding mutual solace and understanding. They often met after work, sharing confidences and coffee under the soft lighting of the store's small counter. "You really managed to surprise me," said Claire one evening, gratitude and something more reflected in her gaze. Nathan responded with a nod, his usual reserve softened by her presence. "I think you surprised me too," he admitted in a sincere tone. Nathan's contribution did not go unnoticed, and he was recognized by the store's management for the key role he played in uncovering the scam. In a small ceremony in the break room, the manager presented him with a plaque and a cash prize. "Your courage and sagacity saved us all," he declared, giving him a pat on the back, as colleagues applauded effusively. Nathan smiled, feeling unaccustomed to such pride. "I just did my duty," he said, although his hands were shaking with emotion. With the end of Mr. Dunn's illicit activities, the store returned to normal, marked by a tangible calm. Nathan immediately noticed the difference. The employees seemed more relaxed, the atmosphere lighter, even the fluorescent lights flickered less. As he walked through the corridors, he greeted customers and colleagues with familiar gestures. "Everything's the same, isn't it?" commented a cashier with a smile. "Better than before," Nathan replied, returning the gesture with authenticity. Nathan and Claire's relationship blossomed, transforming the shared chaos into a foundation for something new. Their dates were simple, but full of meaning: trips to the movies, walks in the park, and dinners in cozy restaurants. One evening, laughing while sharing a dessert, Nathan was struck by a strong feeling. "What is this I'm feeling?" he asked amusedly, pretending to be serious. "It's called happiness," Claire replied, her gaze shining. "You'd better start getting used to it." Over time, the grocery store stabilized, and Nathan kept his job, now surrounded by renewed confidence and esteem. During his rounds, he checked the newly installed cameras and greeted his colleagues from the night shift with good nature. "Everything ready for today, Nathan?" asked one of the younger guards. "Everything in order," he confirmed, casting a glance around the serene store. "Keep an eye out, but let's enjoy this piece," he added, letting out a satisfied smile.